Welcome, my fellow leaders and listeners. This is Succession, a podcast about the pursuit of success, the art of leadership transitions, and the legacies that shape our future. I'm Kori Grillo, and in each episode, we explore what it means to lead with impact, adapt through change, and create a lasting mark on the world of business. Whether you're navigating a career shift or planning your next big move, you're in the right place. Today, I'm joined by two exceptional leaders from Working Planet Marketing Group, CEO Emma Davis and COO Courtney Coleran. Emma, with over a decade of experience in multi-channel marketing and demand generation, has built a career on driving measurable ROI and fostering innovation through diverse perspectives. Courtney, as COO, leads performance-driven digital strategies with a focus on advanced analytics and profitability, delivering measurable financial results across platforms like Google, Meta, and TikTok. Together, Emma and Courtney have navigated growth, leadership, and innovation side by side. In this conversation, we'll explore what it truly means to approach succession as a team, balance shared vision, complementary strengths, and the challenges of leading an organization through transition and growth. Let's meet them now. All right, and welcome to the podcast, Courtney Coleran and Emma Davis. Thank you both for being here so much. So happy to have you.
Yeah, of course. We're excited to be here.
Well, let's jump off. I know I want to dig into a little bit about the dynamics and your company and all working together. But before we do that, let's give a little background on kind of you and the company for the audience. Emma, do you mind kicking us off?
Yeah, not at all. So we are the leaders at Working Planet Marketing Group. So I am the CEO. Courtney is COO. As a business, we've been around for about 21 years, and really we are the one of the early data-driven marketing agencies. And that is now a title that gets ascribed to most marketing agencies because it turns out that sounds really good and is really valuable. And so, our particular focus is using financial data to make sure that your marketing is actually driving profitable outcomes for you.
Important.
It is incredibly valuable stuff that we do.
Yeah, I've seen it happen the other way where that's not exactly included in the outcomes and how they get there. And you're just like, I'm sorry, what? So glad you're upfront with that and that you've established that for your clients. But yeah, thank you. And Courtney, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at Working Planet.
Yeah, so I'm the COO at Working Planet. I've been there just over 7 years. And so I work with all of our operations teams, just making sure that, they're prioritizing their time well, using their time well, so that we can really focus in on strategizing and implementing things that are going to help, to Emma's point, grow our clients' profit. That's really the name of the game and what we're always focused on.
Yeah, well, seems like a clear driver. No questions asked. You know exactly where you want to go and where you want to be as a company. So that's refreshing. So, And when did you both start working together?
When I started, Emma was my account director. So she was my direct manager when I first started at Working Planet 7 years ago. Throughout my 7 years, we've been in quite a few different roles, and we were on the same team at one point. Then we moved into director levels together, VP levels, and now our current CEO and COO.
Wow, that's a lot of growth. I mean, in tandem and also together, but it's like it didn't align. Did you always envision it aligning the way it is now, or was that kind of just where it ended up? No. What did you see?
No. So the earliest days of Courtney joining the team was during a time when I was in grad school. It was actually kind of a challenging time for me. So she joined my team, and 2 months later I said, I don't want to be running a team anymore. This is too much on my plate.
Wow.
And she didn't take it personally, which was great.
Thank you.
I was like, this girl's the straw that broke the camel's back. Like, I just can't do it. So, we became teammates at one point. I went back to managing a team once I finished my master's degree and had a little bit more energy to go around. And she and I ran the two teams that were in the downstairs of our office. So, at the end of the day, when we were wrapping up, sometimes it was just me and her down there, and we'd be chatting about the day and, venting about things that didn't go exactly according to plan, or just sort of
commiserating and celebrating and all the things.
That's right. Yeah.
So, and I guess Courtney, then for you, that moment, it went from kind of a reporting structure to then you're parallel, you're working together on the same level. So that, I mean, for you must have felt good, but was that unexpected or was that what your trajectory was?
Kind of both.
Yeah.
So it definitely felt good. I always like, I mean, I still remember, I think I've told Emma this before, but I remember my first day at Working Planet and I met Emma and I was like talking to my boyfriend on the way home and was like, she's so cool. Like we're gonna get along so well. And like here we are 7 years later. So it is kind of wild that like I've always had so much respect for her. And I love that like we got to do this together.
Wow.
It was really the owners had come to us. I mean, when I first started Working Planet, to back up for 1 second, like I definitely was like, I want to manage a team. I don't have management experience. I came in as like an account manager, entry level. And so like, you know, advancement at Working Planet is completely merit based. And so I definitely was like, I got to prove myself. I want this really bad and moved my way up pretty quickly.
Wow.
And really focused on building those skills. And I think from there, the two owners were thinking about like, you know, we're at a point where we need to start thinking about our succession planning. And they really saw Emma and I as a duo way before Emma and I saw it.
Really?
And so like, I give all of that credit to them and am so grateful that they saw how we complemented each other because I enjoyed her as, you know, a teammate and a coworker and all of that. But I didn't see it honestly until very recently.
Wow.
Yeah.
Emma, same for you?
Yeah, absolutely. It was, you know, I always loved working with Courtney. And I remember once we moved into the director role, so I think I moved into the director of data applications role a few months before you became director of operations, Courtney. And so at the time I made that move, I didn't know the owners of the company had this sort of mapped out. And I think after we were in those roles for about a year, we were talking to them and we were like, you know what, we need a higher level strategy conversation. I think we were getting ready to kick off the new year. Yeah. And they said, you're absolutely right. Let's do that. And we met and we thought we were going to be talking about, you know, new clients and team assignments and stuff. And they said, so we think it's time to share with you. We want you guys to be running the company. And so here's what that looks like. You know, you're going to move into VP positions at this point in time. And we're going to be, you know, building towards this next step. You know, they wanted to start working towards at least partial retirement for them. And so, you know, during the pandemic, we went completely remote. And I think they sort of set their plans in motion. They sold their house, traveled around for a while, wound up traveling around France, and turns out they were on the hunt for their retirement home. So they bought a house out there, and we meet with them once a week, virtually, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, yes, the house in France is incredible, but it's incredible that this was something that you were not planning, and then just we're in a meeting, and you're like, oh, okay. So were you both like, yes, sign me up? I feel like Courtney, you were like, yes, sign me up. But I don't.
That's really funny.
I would say Emma is more that person in our duo.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Yes. Yeah. Okay. And so Emma was like, yes. And Courtney, what was your response then?
I am the more risk averse in our duo. So I'm like, give me some time to think about this. So it definitely took me a little bit more time. It freaked me out initially. And I mean, even now thinking about those conversations, Emma, as you say that, I'm like having flashbacks of like, oh my gosh, even just from a couple of years ago, like the initial plans, everyone sets plans. They never actually go to plan. And so like what we talked about a few years ago is not what actually happened.
Yeah,
like it took a lot of different forms and definitely pushed me to be able to roll with it a little bit more and to really trust Emma, because I think I was in it because Emma was in it. If it was like anyone else, I don't think I would have gone for it.
Wow. I love that, because you're both given this opportunity and your approaches are going to be completely different to that offer. And yet it still comes down to the collaboration that defines the response. Right. And Emma, for you, although you were like, sign me up, you know, but how'd you feel about it being like a partnership?
I loved it. You know, it's, I think partly because it's what the owners had outlined. They said, you know, they had been doing this work for almost 20 years at the time. And they said, this can be really, really fun, and it can be really, really hard. And either way, it's good to not be doing it alone.
Yeah.
And so they had always viewed it as like, whatever happens, we don't want anybody to be flying solo,
Right.
running this, because that they had learned a lot from their experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, with Courtney and I, it's often that like, ooh, a shiny object. I'm so excited about this. And Courtney's like, what if we thought about it for 5 seconds?
Right.
Like, let's think through this and see what's going on. So that feels to me like we can just show up authentically as ourselves and be ourselves and not have to censor anything. And we know that we'll complement each other in those scenarios that where, I can help push us forward and towards that next thing. Courtney will help make sure we do that in a way that's safe for us
Right.
and for our team and our clients. And so,
that's
even from those early conversations, that was starting to crystallize a little bit more that that's how our dynamic might look.
Right.
But until we were actually in it, I think Courtney and I have said, I don't know, dozens of times since we took over leadership about 6 months ago that like, wow, Soren and Vita really knew what they were doing, because we still have times where we're like, I cannot believe how well this dynamic works.
Right.
So
that's incredible.
Yeah, very well crafted.
Yeah. And that's the thing that seems really unique. I mean, it's not every day that I walk into a company and they already have mapped out a succession plan before they're even out the door. Like, there's no need necessarily for them to have gone, but they knew that this would be a seamless transition. They also saw it in a multidimensional way, right? That it wasn't just one person replacing a person. It was a dynamic that was being kind of moving the ship in a direction, and not just, one's out, one's in. You were creating a new dynamic, I would assume, for the company too, because what does this mean for everybody else when you both are kind of collaborating in this way?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of credit to Soren and Vita also, because I think it became really clear once we started telling our clients about this transition, how rare it is for folks exiting the agency space to do that without selling.
Yes.
And so for them, they were getting offers all the time to, have someone come and buy the company. And for them, it's more about or less about a financial investment, or not only about a financial investment. They've spent the last 20 years building the company and the culture of their dreams, and they didn't want to just hand that over or sell that off. And so, they were saying, if this can work out financially, we'd rather find a way to have the team
stay together,
intact, and to see what you guys can build, because that they take that responsibility really seriously, and it's something that they have a lot of pride in.
Okay. So Courtney, when you were kind of processing the offer, what was your biggest, like, even if there was a ton of pros, what was the concern, or what was the thing that was like, okay, let me think about this?
Confidence.
Yeah.
Definitely confidence. Yeah. And just like, I think, Emma and I have both talked a lot about our own experience with imposter syndrome. And I think that, like, I hadn't been in the director role very long when they kind of dropped this on us. And I was like, I'm already dealing with imposter syndrome and feeling like, what am I doing here? And now we're thinking about the next level. Like, it just was very shocking to me. So yeah, I think that was really my own insecurities holding me back, was the biggest fear in saying, like, can I actually do this? Like, I know they think I can do it, but like, do I think I can do this? So it was,
and what was the answer? I mean,
eventually I was like, all right, I guess let's do it. But
so I think you were right.
I think that, like, as we've actually gotten underway, like, that's been the biggest learning lesson, is like, for sure, you still have your moments of like, what am I even doing here?
Totally.
Like, how did people trust me with all of this? But I think that, like, my biggest learning moment from just being like a little bit thrown into it is, I don't know all the answers. Neither of us do, but I feel so confident in our dynamic and our relationship that, like, I know we'll figure it out, even if we don't know it, because we can't know everything. And I think that's what originally I was like, I don't know how to lead a company. I don't know how to, like, be in charge of those types of things. And that really freaked me out. But it's been just so comforting to like be able to bounce things off of Emma and know like we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We don't know it all, but that's okay. And just kind of coming to acceptance of that.
Right. Yeah. I think you're touching on something really important because, imposter syndrome, everybody experiences it to some degree or another, whether they know what it's called or not, or whatever you want to call it. But it's so natural and it makes sense. Like if you're going to be doing something you've never done before, you're not going to feel comfortable with it. Like,
Right.
like the level of belief in yourself of being able to do it, sure, that's going to support you one way or another, or swing the pendulum in one direction of, the comfort of it all one way or another. But for the most part, like, yeah, you're not supposed to feel good at it. You're not supposed to feel like you're an expert. If you do, I'd be more worried. Like,
Right.
like I'd be like, wait a second, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, so
Right.
great, you're right, you don't. And that's scary and that's difficult. But you also had this partner that you could have a sounding board. You also knew what you learned, how you learned it, and how fast you applied it, and where you got where you were going. Like for both of you, I'm sure those moments have risen, but then you prove them to be wrong. Like it's not needed anymore to be that insecure about certain things. There's new things to be insecure about that come all the time.
Yeah.
So why waste time
They
with
keep
the
coming.
old? Yeah. So, I mean, for you, Emma, what was your moment or challenge, I guess, even if it has been just in the first 6 months that you were just like, oof, okay.
Yeah, I think because my default with challenges and opportunities tends to be, yeah, absolutely, let's do it. I have this second guessing that comes later.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I didn't fully understand.
Right.
Maybe maybe, and that's usually where Courtney and I then like pass each other.
Right.
It's like I start second guessing just as she's like, okay, I've processed this
got it.
and I'm good now.
Yes.
And so we kind of slingshot back and forth. But yeah, absolutely. I remember in some of the early conversations about the succession plan, telling Courtney like, okay, but whatever happens, I don't want to be CEO. That's too scary and intimidating for we didn't know what the roles were going to be. And then, I don't know how much later it was, maybe like a few months or something. Soren and Vita told us, so here's our vision. Here's how this is going to play out. Courtney, COO, Emma, CEO. And I was like, uh-oh.
Right.
That's the opposite of what I was thinking. And so, a lot of it is just about recognizing that jumping in head first has its benefits, but there's always this element of like, there is risk associated with that. And so then the concern once I'm already in it of like, oh shoot, hold on, wait, is everything okay?
Right.
Maybe I should have thought about this more, but no, it's too late now. We're kind of off and rolling. So I think very similar to Courtney's challenge, just at a different point in the process.
Yeah. I mean, I thank you for both of you for being kind of honest about the experience and what that means and how it's been going. I also think it's really important for people to understand that when you're making a succession plan, it doesn't need to be one for one. Like there is a dynamic approach that can be taken if you're looking at it in a holistic way of the functioning of the company and what direction. Obviously, when you're planning for sale, it's different than if you're planning to build and expand. Sometimes people try to do both. Like that's also a different scenario, but when you're seeing somebody and you're saying, okay, I have this really valuable person, but they don't have all of the edges kind of rounded out yet, and they're still evolving. That doesn't mean they can't go where they need to go. It just means you can find also a balance or a support system or ensure that there's something there to support them to be successful in growing that part or growing with that part.
Yeah.
Because it's not so easy. It's not so simple. It's like, oh, well, we're going out and I think this person looks like me, talks like me, walks like me, does everything I would do. So that sounds perfect. It's like, no, never happens. And sometimes you don't want it to happen that way. That's not refreshing. That's not an opportunity to kind of evolve. That's just kind of cookie cutter. And that's not always a lot of
It's
times.
funny that you say that because that was actually one of the things I struggled with early on is like, I don't act like them.
Right.
Like I lead in a different way. And I battled that a lot. And like Soren and Vita would constantly like, you don't have to be like be you. Like that's the point. And it is hard when it's like, okay, I'm looking to be that person, like helping take over. after they're gone. And so I did get stuck in a like, this is what that's supposed to look
Right.
like. When in reality, I feel like once we were able to embrace like, this is who we are as leaders, and that's how that fits into like, this is the type of company that we want to have, and the team that we
Right.
want to have, and the culture we want to have. Like,
Yeah.
it was just a lot smoother.
Yeah. Has it always been, the way they were leading, it sounds like the company was always kind of culture first, like people first, because
They're extremely people focused.
yeah, I don't see any other way that this would, not that they've lost sight. Clearly, they didn't lose sight of like the goals of the business and the financial aspects, because it's successful, very successful. So it's like, how do you feel that like, how did they prioritize that? What does that mean to you? What's your experience of that transferring also?
I think they're very principled people. So, in a lot of the conversations, it's almost like growing up and becoming a parent, and then suddenly you have all these questions for your parents about like, what are the decisions that you made?
Right.
And so, we've been doing more dissecting with them, like, why did you decide to, take this approach,
Right.
and all that. And they just, they viewed Working Planet as an opportunity to make the world a little bit more the world that they wanted to live in and work in. And so I said, we can't change the world, but we can make this place the place we want. We would want to be working.
I got chills.
And, so they've always been incredibly supportive and open-minded and kind. They're just incredibly kind, generous people. Even, the story I alluded to earlier with when I stopped being Courtney's manager for a while, it was like, I'm working on my master's degree in analytics. I have this, fairly green team. I had a full team of clients and team members, and none of them had been there for longer than a year. And I was like, this is just a lot of training. I don't really have anybody I can fall back on yet.
Right.
Everybody's still coming up to speed, and I'm burning out.
Right.
And so I was really afraid at the time that like, so I guess this is goodbye, because
Right.
I don't want to go back in my career.
Right.
So, this is a bummer. And, there were tears and all that. And the owner said, well, hold on, let's think about this. Maybe there's an opportunity to create a new position where you would have more autonomy, more independence. You can still contribute to your team. And also we have this need as a business that aligns well with what you're studying in your master's program. So you could practice that and, still kind of be moving forward. And it was like, you don't have to, you didn't have to do that. That's just, they said, yeah, we like you. We want you part of the team. And if we can find mutually beneficial ways to do that, we're happy to, break the mold or think outside the box and find something that will work for all of us. And so that was really game changed at that point in terms of my understanding of what was going to be possible at Working Planet.
Not just in your world, like that moment, right? If that moment didn't happen, first of all, none of this, we would not be talking clearly. And it also like, and you didn't know about this succession plan. They didn't know at the time, right? Yeah. Really? Maybe they had this hunch and they saw your potential, obviously both of you, and saw the dynamic, but they were saying like, just because you don't get what you want, maybe you get what you need, right? Like, let's not always assume bad news is the wrong news, and let's make our own news out of it. And they just reshaped something there. And that led to all of the things that came after, and that investment in you and your ability to also go to school and learn all the things that you needed to be where you are now. And, and then giving Courtney the opportunity to step up and be this equal partner with you in some way, and her time to shine while you were kind of, trying to fulfill with the education and grow in a different way. She was growing in her management skills, and like all of that was a catalyst to the way their company is going to be supported now and in the very forever future, like as far as we could see. Right. So, these moments of humanity, and also compassion can also be moments of strategy. So
and that's something that stands out to me about that moment too, is that it wasn't just here's a cold calculating like, well, here's what would work. Like we were all emotional, and I didn't really understand where their emotion was coming from until they told me, we just don't want you to feel like you gave up on something.
Yeah.
Like, you wanted to be a manager, and we don't want you to have the feeling like you couldn't do it, because that's not what's happening right now. And, they were moved by just like, here's a person in front of us and we want her to be having a good life and a good career.
Yeah.
And we're going to do what we can to make that happen. And
yeah, but
it's just an incredible example.
that paid off, right?
Yeah.
That was a smart move, and also just awesome and kind. And I want to meet both of them because they sound like epic humans. But
yeah, they really are.
So Courtney, how has that impacted your leadership style? I know you said you were crafting it and kind of molding it along the way. So what does that mean to you now?
Yeah, I think that they have been amazing role models in regards to just how they treat their staff and their people. I think that I definitely am very particular about my like personal relationships with people. I want to get to know people. I want to know that they have good work-life balance. Like, I highly value those things. And I want to show personal care, but I also don't want to cross that line, because I think that it gets really muddy to lead and manage people who maybe you're like, well, they're my friend, and that makes it really difficult to have hard conversations and do the things that you need to do in order to run a successful business. So I've been really strict on that from the get-go. But I think that, Soren and Vita definitely have just shown, like, anyone who works at Working Planet has heard Soren probably say a million times, like, you have to find the silver linings. And I feel like he's kind of trained us all to do that. And so, like, even in hard situations, it's like, what good, like, to Emma's story, it's like, what good can come out of this for everyone? And I think that that's just like a view and a perspective that they've put into our culture, and everyone is supportive. Like, I mean, I know people, everyone's always like, we work with the best people. I'm like, we genuinely work with the kindest, nicest, supportive, smart, hardworking people. And that's because of them. Like, they not only brought those people in, but they continued to like cater to that culture and build it. It's never an issue of like having to deal with people issues. It really is just like amazing. And we love our team so much. And I think people first is kind of like what I've learned from them in terms of like leading and managing, and have continued to try to like keep that at the forefront of my own approach.
I'm thinking you got to put that on a plaque or something if it isn't already. You got to look for the silver linings, right? And it's funny what people don't put on their, their PR, right? Like, oh, here are our mission and values and all of these things. And here you're telling me like a core that everybody knows, like they're living and breathing within the organization, which is probably not like listed somewhere on the job description, right? Of like, here's what you also need to keep in mind about our company. Like, this is a part of our ethos. Definitely should be, because that's amazing. And we don't always have those, and people don't always believe in those, but it sounds like that's a direct representation of your organization and how you're always working. So that's pretty cool. What do you think, Emma? Should we put it on some paperwork here? Make sure all the clients know too.
Yeah. Well, now I'm thinking of like, what are the other things? What are the other things that belong on that plaque and on those papers? So, there are definitely a lot of those things. It's like, I can hear their voices ringing in my head sometimes. And I find myself repeating things that they've said for years around like, we just think it's fun to solve hard problems with nice people. And that's like what we get to do all day. And, and their vision of the future is like, we want people to have the lives that they want. So we want people to be able to buy a house and have a family if they want to, and, have a good balance in their work and life. But we also want to be working hard and solving valuable, important problems and, be doing work that we're proud of. And so I think when I started here, they would talk about that, and I was like cynical. I started right out of college.
Sure.
And
well, any college student.
My understanding was, my understanding was, the man is out to get you, and
be ready.
Your first job, you should stay there a year, 2 years tops, and then move on and, build your career that way. And I just kept finding more and more reasons to stay, and more reasons to like, maybe these people are legit. Maybe these people are, they're walking the walk,
Right.
and they just kept proving it over and over and over again. And not for the sake of proving it. I think that was part of it. They were never trying to like sell anybody on anything. They just said, legitimately, this is what we want. This is, this is what would make us happy. So this is how we're going to roll.
And they walked the walk, right? Everything they were saying they were doing. And then over time, that just proves to people, builds that trust that's unbreakable. And and it builds great businesses. That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let me ask a very bizarre question to be asking you. It might seem in the first 6 months of this plan being rolled out for your leadership positions right now. When do you think you'll start succession planning?
Never,
right.
Kori. That's not a thing that will ever happen.
What are your thoughts about it? Like even that concept?
I am nowhere near a point of like when I am ready to move on.
For sure.
This is exciting. This is really fun. The first 6 months have been really tough, but have also been probably the most fun I've had at work ever. So
awesome.
That's really cool. I think it's more a matter of what's next for us as a company than what's next for me without the company, or the company without me or Courtney.
Sure.
And so there is always we're always talking and mapping out, okay, what is that next frontier and that next opportunity? And I think a particular strength of Courtney's is recognizing individual strengths on the team and seeing opportunities where like, here's a need, there's a skill set and an interest. And so let's start working towards how can we fulfill this need that we have. But really, we as a company have historically only hired into entry-level positions. So our entire organization is people who started here at the same level and the same job, and then worked their way up or over or towards, a particular area of interest for them. And so I think, we're continuing that as well, just trying to map out, okay, what's next for the people that we have? What are they interested in? How can we keep them interested and engaged? And how does that align with where we're going as a business?
Right. Okay. And Courtney, what are you thinking? Same?
Yeah, honestly, same. I'm having a lot of fun and I'm excited. I think that, when we took over, we also expanded our offerings. And so we're really testing out a new branch of our business, offering consulting, which we hadn't done previously. And so that's opening a lot of doors, I think, for us to just try new things and see what other paths we might be able to go, so that at the end of the day, we can help more businesses. Like that's really what it's allowed us to do, which is the fun stuff. So, I don't know what other paths that might come, but I think that that's really where I'm focused right now.
I think especially after this conversation, and great succession planning doesn't always come under a meeting about succession planning, right? And obviously there was an amazing succession plan cultivated here, but it was cultivated over time, and it wasn't necessarily always written in stone, and it wasn't a decision made in a vacuum, but there was always an eye out, and there was always an intention and always an investment in someone when they saw somebody that they felt like they should invest in and cultivate that from. And, there's always an end in mind, even though if you don't know what the end is going to be, and hopefully there's nothing unexpected that happens along the way. Right. But,
there will be.
There always
there
is.
Absolutely
right.
Be.
Exactly.
There always is.
So in the meantime, understanding that is part of the ethos. Like never, like, yes, of course, we don't want you both going anywhere. Right. And we don't even want to think about it, but we kind of need to always think about it, because it's a whole company moving in a direction with you. So even though you might be moving the pieces in different positions under you around and expanding this and that, it's part of it. Like it's part of the conversation. It's part of the expansion. It's part of the evolution of the company and your careers in general. So it seems like it's always been a part of your culture, even though if that's not what it was called. And that's why it went so seamlessly. Like you don't just say, oh, well, I want to get fruit. And then all of a sudden, boom, there it is the next day. It's like, no, you're tilling the soil, you're planting the seeds, you're waiting forever. And then some of it doesn't work. And then you got to try it again. And, but it's always a part of the process.
Yeah.
So when you do get what you're looking for, it's just wonderful. So thank you for being an example of that and sharing it with me and everybody today. I appreciate you both. Seriously, it's great to see.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Of course.
All right. Well, keep me posted on everything going on in your world and with your growth, with your company, everything. I want to know. And
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming today. Appreciate you both. And before we go, a big thank you to all our listeners for tuning in today. We hope you found some valuable takeaways to help you with your own leadership journey. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're ready to dive deeper into your own succession strategy, or you want to be a guest on the show, reach out and email us at ask@korigrillo.com. Remember, great legacies are built on smart strategies. Keep leading forward, my friends, and we'll talk soon. Bye.